I'm not proud of it, but I didn't want to take that COVID test. It was nearly a year ago. I'd been feeling just a little under the weather. One evening at home, I asked my wife, Carrie, "Is it cold in here?" "No, it's not," she said. "You better take that COVID test," and I've got one. "I don't want to take the COVID test," I said, sounding like my 8-year-old self. But she swabbed my nose. It felt like she swabbed all the way to the frontal lobe of my brain. And 2 little pink lines in the test kit declared I had COVID. I didn't want to take the test because I was afraid I'd have to face something I didn't want to face, and I'd have to do something about it. Not wanting to test reminds me of step 4. We're walking through the 12 steps for us all, and this week we're at step 4. Step 4 is the self-test, a moral inventory as it's called. We take it knowing that what we find might not be good and that what we find might require our action. Welcome to TV, Tennessee Valley Church. This week we're in Huntsville at His Way, a Christ-centered residential recovery center for men addicted to drugs and alcohol. This week, week 4, is the week it gets real. This is the week you will decide if you're going to just sit and listen to TV Church about the 12 steps, or you're going to work the 12 steps as a matter of Christian discipleship. In week 1, we said, I can't overcome my overwhelming tendency to do the wrong thing. In week 2, we chose hope when we declared God can, and last week we said, I don't want to play God anymore. I surrender my will, that place deep within me from which decisions come, to Him. Today we're going to follow what the Bible says about looking inward and backward to see how we ended up where we are. For hope is stronger than memory. And God is more interested in our tomorrows than our yesterdays. But we can't go forward until we go back. Let me say that again. Hope is stronger than memory, and God is more interested in our tomorrows than in our yesterdays. But we can't go forward until we go back. AA's step 4 reads like this. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. It's called moral inventory because it does have to do with morality and character issues. But moral also simply means truthful and honest. It's important, by the way, to remember that we're taking our own inventories, not each other's. Our biblical principle for us all is this: my spiritual health depends on my honest self-assessment. Our guiding texts from the Bible this week are, let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord, Lamentations 3:40. But the way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble. Proverbs 4:19. The truth will set you free. Jesus quoted in John 8, verse 32. Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. Hebrews 12, verse 1. Here are a few warnings about step 4. 1. Don't begin with step 4. In the first 3 steps, we humbled ourselves before God and found our hope and surrender to Him. Without the hope that comes from a relationship with a loving God, to list all my faults and failures could be devastating. 2, you can't do this hurriedly. This work is more than we can do quickly. It will take some time and some work. Number 3, you've got to write it down. Bill W. wrote, when we saw our faults, we listed them. We placed them before us in black and white. This is not just a mental exercise. We're talking about pen and paper, or at least a keyboard. And you can't destroy your list. Next week, we're going to share it with somebody. I did this, by the way. I put my inventory down on paper. It's humbling. It's revealing. It's unsettling. A few unpleasant things I haven't considered in a while came to mind, and I wrote them down. On your screen, you're going to see a QR code, and it's going to be up there long enough for you to scan it. Just open the camera on your phone and point it at the screen. Tap the pop-up on your screen and it will take you to a worksheet you can download for the fourth step. It's not an official worksheet, it's just a guide, a suggestion. I tried to provide something that would help all of us, not only those with addictions, to work the fourth step. Our fourth warning about the fourth step is this: if this walk down memory lane is fraught with danger, don't go alone. Step 4 can be overwhelming. If there are dark rooms in your past, if there are frightening memories you've locked away, to walk into those dark rooms alone, to conjure up those frightening memories alone, could be unhealthy, depressing, even debilitating. You need what folks in recovery would call a sponsor. We might call it a good friend or a mentor. You might even need a professional. Not everyone has those awful past experiences. If you don't have any of those particularly dark rooms in your past or any terribly painful memories, then you can do this moral inventory on your own. But don't revisit shadowy, painful places in your past by yourself. Step 4 is not about just listing our failures, it's about understanding the why behind them. Again, Bill W. wrote, "We searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure." The moral inventory includes the roots and reasons behind our troubles, why they keep recurring, why we can't seem to shake them. What the Bible calls our sin nature taints everything about us, including our emotions. So our bad choices are often rooted in destructive emotions like fear and resentment. Let's look at our bad behavior, our moral failures, the hurts we've caused. But let's also consider the roots and reasons behind our troubled lives. Let's figure out, certainly with counseling if need be, what makes us stumble. What is it that makes me feel the need to escape or self-medicate with alcohol or other substances? What is it that makes it so easy for me to get into wrong relationships? What makes me the way I am? Step 4 is not about just listing our failures. It's about understanding the why behind them. Some of us will need to consider our family history, our environment during our early formative years, how we were treated, how our family members related to each other. All have shaped who we are, both for good and for bad. It's helpful to acknowledge that some of our troubles might be traced back to painful family experiences. But this is not about claiming the role of victim. It's not about taking our parents' inventories, remember, or our siblings' inventories. This is about taking our own inventories. It's about understanding ourselves and why we consistently stumble. So the question is, how did we respond or react to our family experiences? Resentment is a big deal in the fourth step of recovery. I confess, by the way, I have a resentment. I'm holding a grudge against Jerry Jones. He bought the Dallas Cowboys and fired my favorite NFL coach, Tom Landry, in 1989. Yes, I know that's 33 years. I've been resentful for more than 3 decades now, and I've decided I'm just not going to give up that resentment. Frankly, I kind of enjoy it. Got any resentments you're not willing to give up? Maybe some more serious resentments? Bill W. spent more time in step 4 on resentment than anything else. He wrote, "Resentment is the #1 offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease. A life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness." So this is the work that he said provided healing. Putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done, we resolutely looked for our own mistakes. Though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person involved entirely. Where were we to blame? The inventory was ours, not the other man's. We could spend more time than we have here on resentments. Pay attention to your resentments when you're doing your inventory. After music and an interview, I'm going to be back. I'm going to be back to talk about a bird who attacked his own reflection and a violent alcoholic who realized who the problem was.
How deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond bring many sons to glory. Behold the man upon a cross, my sin upon his shoulders. Ashamed, I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers. It was my sin that held him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. I will not boast in anything, no gifts, no power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, his death and resurrection. Why should I gain from his reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart: his wounds have paid my ransom. But this I know with all my heart: his wounds have paid my ransom.
His Way is a Christ-centered residential recovery center here in Madison County. The director, Tom Reynolds, joins us today. Thank you for letting us shoot TV Church here today.
Oh, it's been great to have you.
Tom, tell us about the three parts of your His Way residential program.
Well, the residential program is, for men, it's a 9-month program. So the first 30 days they come in and they, just during classes, they're really developing a Christ-centered framework for recovery. We then help them start moving toward work, and so we start really working them toward and developing toward preparing for work. And so then we help them get jobs, and so then they get placed into work. And so then the remainder of the program, they're really working toward the end. We really work with them to get them ready for transitioning out, help them get prepared and reconnect with family and that kind of thing, so they have a good opportunity to start fresh.
You have a graduation once a month.
We have a graduation first Sunday of the month, and the 9-month guys, we also have the option for them to stay for an extra 3 to 6 more months after for our advanced recovery group. So they can be involved in that too, and so we graduate all of them, the first Sunday of the month.
Tom, Travis is talking today about the fourth step for us all. And the AA fourth step says, made us searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves.
Right, absolutely.
Why is that so important in recovery?
Ultimately, when things stay in the darkness, they destroy our lives. And I think getting things into the light is the most critical thing. I think Scripture's clear on how significant it is to get things in light. So I think really helping people move things from darkness to light, that takes most of the power out. I think so many times we think that we need therapy and all these kind of things, not that there's not a good place for it. But I think the most important thing is if we can just move things from the darkness into the light, most of the therapy God will take care of through the power of His Spirit and through the forgiveness and grace of God.
And His Way provides a safe place for men to do that.
That's the most important thing to me, is that we have over 15 years been able to create a culture here that's Christ-centered, that really is a safe, secure place where people can just open up and be loved and encouraged and experience God's grace and forgiveness. And that really is the transformative work of God that we're just creating an environment to have happen.
Do the guys come back after they graduate? They come back
all
to see
the time. Most of our staff are here for graduates, and we see our guys all the time. It's been a great family. It's been a real blessing to be a part of a community that loves one another, that really expresses the love of Christ toward each other as well as toward the community.
Tom, your fundraising theme has been All Rise. How does that work into the program?
You know, when we started this program, we really were focused on helping men overcome addiction and doing it through the strength of Christ. But what we found over 15 years is how many of us have been changed by that process. And so we really saw that as we are united together as Christians, bringing the message of Christ to this hurting community, that we've all benefited, that we've all grown, that we've all experienced our own spiritual awakening through the opportunity of serving these men.
Tom, what's the success rate here? What do you see with the men who come through here?
Right. Well, one of the challenges in dealing with addiction is obviously the recidivism rate is very high in our country. Usually less than 3%, 10% usually ever get through this. However, one of the things we thought was critically important is that we need to define success properly. And so one of the things I emphasized when we started this program is that success isn't about manipulating people into a result as much as it's about presenting the opportunity for the transformation. So success to us is about sharing Christ with people, because we believe that once those seeds are sown, they will transform people's lives one way or another, however long that takes. And one of the things we've seen is a lot of our guys, everyone who comes through our program, about 50% of our guys will graduate. Most of them do well and continue on. A lot of them will come back every now and then, and we'll try to help them get back on track. But we've seen tremendous transformation in the spiritual well-being of our men. And so that's been really the great success, of seeing the gospel change people's lives.
We'll send people to hiswayinc.org for more information.
That'd be great.
Thanks, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Today we're considering step 4 in our series, The 12 Steps for Us All. Step 4 is not about just beating ourselves up. The 4th step is not about wallowing around in our shame or recycling our regrets. It is indeed about honest reflections, but it's not about throwing ourselves into those reflections and hurting ourselves. I'd always heard that birds will attack their own reflections in glass. I also have heard that sometimes they'll do that until it kills them. Last year, our ministers were away for staff retreat. John Lemons, our church's young adult minister, came to breakfast with a story. He began by saying he'd been awakened by something banging against his window. He got up and looked, and this is what he saw. A cardinal was throwing itself at its reflection in John's window. The bird would slam itself into its own reflection, fall, get up, and do it again. Birds do that sometimes. That is not step 4. This inventory of our lives is intended to produce a healthy way forward. It's not so that we will see ourselves, hate what we see, recoil, and knock ourselves out over the reflection. We aren't going to beat ourselves up, but we are going to own what we need to own. You and I are notoriously, dangerously able to justify and rationalize our sins. So in preparing to take our inventory, we have to say up front, when we see our moral failure, when we see a way we've hurt others and made a mess of things, we won't explain it away or blame it on anyone else. We will, in the words of Jeremiah 3:13, acknowledge our guilt. Ida lived next door to our church building in Mount Washington, Kentucky. Her life story would have made a great movie, except it might have seemed too far-fetched to be believable. Listening to her stories was like reading a wild novel. Ida's family was from the Appalachian Mountains of eastern Kentucky, and they were moonshiners. Theirs was a violent life. Ida's family had experienced more killings than I could keep up with. Ida's son, Paul, came to live near his mom when he was released from prison, and there I got to know him. Paul is a follower of Jesus and has a new life. Now, he has some issues with church he hasn't overcome, so he doesn't go to church much, or at least didn't when I knew him. Yet I was impressed with the fact that despite his history, he had gotten and kept his life together. He was out in Ida's yard one day when I stopped to talk to him. What he said to me that day was so meaningful, I immediately walked to my nearby office and wrote it down. This is what Paul said. I was in prison for 27 years, all total, for violent crimes. 4 of my brothers were shot to death, and my father was shot to death when I was a boy. I've abused alcohol and drugs. I'm a recovering alcoholic now. It finally dawned on me after 27 years in prison that I was the problem. It wasn't my world or my past. It was Paul. Paul's difficult family history had a definite impact on the direction his life took. Some would say his violent crimes were inevitable. But Paul finally refused to play the role of a victim. Paul decided to take responsibility for his life. Paul's yesterdays no longer determine his tomorrows. Let's not beat ourselves up, but let's own what we need to own. Then, as was said in the movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, don't let your past dictate who you are, but let it be part of who you will become. Tennessee Valley Church means church has left the building. So has membership. Here's what I mean. You might be feeling a need or maybe even a call from God to be part of our church family in a more tangible way. If you're not able to join us physically here at 600 Governors Drive, whether because of distance, mobility, schedule, or some other reason, you still can be a member of First Baptist Huntsville. Let me send you information on what that would mean, what you could expect from your church, and what your church would expect from you. Email me at travis@fbchsv.org. Let me know of your desire for membership, and I'll help you get started. Join hands with us as we attempt to join hands with God Himself in His mission to the world.
I will boast in